Good evening, people, and welcome to my fourth episode of the podcast that I'm running. It's called Liminal Conversations. Today, I have with me a guest who's somebody I look up to and I really admire. He is the owner of three schools in Dehradun. He is an educator and is really, really making a difference in society by educating children, helping them adapt to, the latest trends in education. Dehradun essentially is a city of education, of intellectuals, where we find a lot of people, who are out of Dehradun who say that Dehradun is a city of schools. And I think it's people like him who really put Dehradun on the map. I think it's people like him who really should become the face of education in this country because they themselves have hands on experience. They themselves walk into classrooms to actually see how education in the real world is really taking place. It's people like him who convey to the world that education is not just confined to a classroom, it is way beyond that. So please welcome on this podcast Mr. Harinder Juneja. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Adviti.
And thank you so much for doing this with me, sir.
Thank you for having me here, and it's a privilege, honestly. Yes, I really am grateful that you could, you thought that I would be somebody who would be, useful
Not
for
at all, sir.
people,
Useful?
talking to people generally.
No, no, not useful, sir. You are an inspiration to so many,
Thank you for that.
including me. I think it takes a lot to do what you're doing.
Thank you.
And
Again.
like I said, we need more people like you in this country. People who take education seriously and not don't just take it seriously, but also help in imparting it.
Definitely, I think education is something I have always thought that there is no other way of doing anything. You try to find some purpose in life generally, and I found my calling, at a certain age, and when we are thought imparting and giving back to the society is something generally which is very important, and bringing a change in the community is important. That is why I chose this profession, and I hope that I am doing a
You're doing
somewhat decent job.
No, sir, you're doing a wonderful job. I think. I think it's like I said. It's only people like you who should become the face of education in this country, not just in the city. I think it's very very important. I've seen you and Rajni ma'am, both of you, do this. It's just amazing. Of course, we've discussed about this. I want to really understand, sir, where do you think really, when we were kids, in our times, education, classroom education, essentially was very different. We had teachers walking into the class and using maps and helping us understand. History की class होती थी सर हमारी तो हमारी मैम तो map पे ही समझाती थी हमको सारी history.
Correct.
But these days I find a lot of my friends who have kids, उनको एक भी project मिलता है, so they get one project and they are on ChatGPT, copying paste everything and we're done. What do you think should be a deterrent to that, sir, in classroom education? Is there really
Okay.
a deterrent to that?
I think generally, the mindset has to change. And the mindset on the parts of, I would say, all the stakeholders in education. That means the parents, the teachers, that means the school, and the children. So, what has happened over the past is that Indian education, particularly, has been all about marks, all about something generally, what I term, if you go very deeply into it, validation. Okay, these many marks I have scored, and I've scored better than others, or I've come first in class, or these many medals I've got. That has to change. That mindset has to change. When the focus changes from marks towards learning, that is what will become the deterrent of copying and pasting. Because the focus should not be that of, okay, I have to score these many, but the focus should be that what did I learn today? Because copying and pasting will not teach you or will not give any learning. And now, very, very fortunately, there are institutions, there are people in the education landscape who are thinking towards this side. Rather, the national education policy, which is there, which has been introduced, focuses towards learning by thinking, active learning, what we call. What you were telling about in your time of being in school as a student, or my time of being in school, that was very passive learning. That was a teacher led class. Now the students participate in their learning. It is better to ask more questions rather than answer those questions.
So it wasn't really out of the fact that a teacher walks into class and you're supposed to be quiet. It isn't like that anymore.
Not at all. If, personally, if you ask me, when I'm taking a round in my school and if I see a class which is quiet, then I think generally that something is not happening. We'd rather have children, raising their hand and answering questions, or asking questions for that matter. Something what we call, in our school, we have something what we call flipped learning,
Oh,
where
lovely.
we give children something generally, to read a day before. The lesson is going to be taught in the class. That means the children are going to be ready with questions. So they are going to go through their lesson and come up with questions. Asking questions is a better way of learning rather than answering questions.
Tell me more about this flipped way of learning, sir.
So flipped way of learning is something, it is a flip that the teacher is not only teaching, but asking the children, okay, you go through this lesson, and the next day when this lesson is being taught, be ready with some questions. Of course, we do not expect that the children have understood everything which is there, but maybe even if a small portion of it, generally they have been able to grasp, then they will be willing to ask questions. And when questions are being asked, that is when learning is happening.
Right. So I'm just sharing an anecdote with you. So a friend of mine, her toddler wouldn't have even gone to preschool, and the toddler was creating a tantrum, and the best thing she could do to make her toddler stop creating a tantrum or crying, she picked up her iPad, opened YouTube, and opened nursery rhymes for that child. I think I come from that generation, so when my mom used to give me a nursery rhyme book, and I still believe that books are still the best thing to give a child. Do you think that really has an effect anywhere, sir? This just change giving a child YouTube to watch, or giving a child a book? It's
Definitely a book. Definitely a book, and something that a child should be doing hands on. Let's just try and understand how science works or a brain works. When you're talking of a toddler, maybe a 2-year-old child, or maybe 1.5 year, 2-year-old child, it is scientific. It is a scientific fact that between 0 to 9 years, the brain development happens at the best.
yes.
More so at the age of the toddlers. Now, when a child is being given an iPad or a video to watch, the brain is actually focused on color, sound, images, fast moving images at that, which is there. The child will be able to watch that video for maybe over half an hour or maybe 1 hour also. Ask the same child to go through a book for half an hour.
No, the attention
Child
span.
will not be able to do.
Attention spans have really gone
So
down.
the attention spans have gone down. Why have they gone down? Because of our introduction of, we are introducing children towards these videos and these moving images and fast moving, colors and sound. That is why the brain gets tuned to those. Now, the best way of teaching a child is doing hands-on activities with the child.
Okay.
Unfortunately, some parents do not have enough time and patience to be able to sit with the child. They will be the ones who will say, okay, because I am doing something else, so the child should be busy with some YouTube video or a television or a mobile phone. I might be doing something else. They can never be a role model because they never read themselves.
Yes.
If they are scrolling on the phones and they're expecting the child to pick up a book, that unfortunately is not going to happen.
I totally agree with you, sir, because that is the age when the child completely imitates the elders in the family. That is that age where they will look at the parent and just imitate everything they're doing. So you're absolutely right. I totally agree with you, sir. When you say that when the parents are only not reading, why will the child read? And if the child is always watching the parent on a phone or on an iPad, the child will also want to do that. Coming to my next question, sir. The other day we were having a conversation, and you came up with a word which I think you should get copyrighted, sir, because that is your terminology. You spoke of something, we were talking about how education, we were in the same theme of conversations. And you said, Adviti, you spoke of something known as relevant education, sir. And if you've recently seen Elon Musk's interview with Nikhil Kamath, he's categorically said that by 2027, jobs will be optional. And that's what a VUCA world is really all about. We live in a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world. Where do you think relevant education, and how do you think education in a classroom becomes relevant in such a scenario, sir?
Why do we educate our children? So that is a question, that first question should to be asked.
In the Indian
Maybe,
diaspora?
probably in the Indian diaspora or generally all over the world for that
So
matter.
Indian diaspora, so we need a job.
Absolutely right. Yes, we need a stable job.
We need a stable job.
But do you think, as Elon Musk says generally, that work is going to be optional?
Yes.
Do you think that even if India is a little far behind the way that world is functioning, which I think is not now, are the same jobs going to exist maybe 5 years, 10 years from now? Unfortunately, no.
You really think so, sir?
I think so. Because the world is moving too fast. And relevant education means preparing the children for that future, what is going to come tomorrow. If we are going to teach our children just to memorize, just to reproduce on the paper the next day and get marks, then we are actually not creating any good learners. What we need to do is that we have to create sincere learners, the ones who are learning to learn. That means after a certain time, that means maybe a class 10 or a class 12 pass out or after a degree, learning does not stop.
We are lifelong learners as humans
We have
also,
to be.
sir. Yes.
There is no choice.
We're always learning. Yes.
There is no choice.
Yes.
And when Mr. Musk says generally that optional, the work is going to be optional, generally, or jobs are going to be optional, generally. That means generally that the basic work is going to go away. The fundamental, you mean, what I mean to say is the work which is repetitive.
What kind of basic work are we talking about, sir?
I feel the work which is quite repetitive generally, or what we do, something generally which is just eating away our time, making us, less efficient. That work is definitely going to be taken over by technology, AI particularly. So the relevant education at the school level, I feel, is communication. Communication skills have to be very strong. Thinking, critically thinking, very, very important. Asking questions, very important. Numeracy, of course, is important.
Yes.
Reasoning is very
Reasoning
important.
is important.
So if these kind of things can be done with the subjects which are there in the school, I am not saying, okay, change the subjects dramatically. But the approach towards teaching has to change. Approach towards learning has to change.
So basically you're saying that the learning outcome has to really change.
Absolutely. It should not be marks oriented at all. The evaluation, the assessments have to be in a different way.
So then how do you assess a student, sir?
So the point here is,
if it's I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah.
But if it's not mark based, if it's how do you figure out that in a class of 20, okay, this child has the best risk taking ability, or this child is more fit to really go out there and exist or survive or thrive in a VUCA world? How will you come to that
Aditi,
assessment?
it is a continuous evaluation which has to happen. It can't be a 1 hour or a 3 hour test at the end of the term which is going to evaluate a child's learning. It has to be on an everyday basis, where a teacher has to be trained enough to observe the child and observe if the child is learning in a proper way or not. Specific goals have to be there. Rubrics have to be there, which have to be,
Yes.
Those have to be set up. Definitely, yes. But at the end of the day, if it is only going to be about marks, then a student who's got 99 is getting an admission and the one who's getting 97 is not, then I feel there is something drastically wrong.
Yes. I agree with you, sir. Do you think AI or technology will ever replace teachers in a classroom, sir?
So when I remember when I started my first school, that was in the year 2000. And that was a time generally, towards the 90s generally, when things were happening, generally when computers had been introduced.
EdTech really came
into
into classrooms.
And the same thing happened. Oh, computers are going to replace teachers. Computers are going to replace teachers. Nothing happened. AI is not going to replace teachers. AI is going to replace those teachers who don't use AI. That means that those teachers are going to replace. So teachers have to use AI, they have to use technology, and then they can become better learner. Like I told you about training of teachers. Very, very important aspect of education today. Because we are asking the same teachers to teach something different and new without training them to do that.
This is so profound, sir, what you're saying. That relevant education is not just about a student, it is also about the teacher. And this is so profound.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because, like I told you, it is a stakeholder, generally, one of the stakeholders which is taking an initiative to teach, like what you just said, how to evaluate those 20 children in a class. But another very, very important factor is the parent's mindset.
Hanji.
Very important. Today, a parent at a certain stage of the child's education feel it's fine generally, okay, my child is enjoying school and my child is doing something. But suddenly, what you said earlier about that job stability, safety net. Oh, will my child be able to, get admission in a university, or will be able to crack a particular exam, a competitive exam? That all starts coming in.
So, don't you think that we are somewhere crippling our students? If a student, so I'm sure it doesn't happen in any of your schools, because I'm sure you and Rajni ma'am are really making sure that this doesn't happen with any student. But I wish all schools were like yours. But do you really think that this would really happen in an average government school, sir?
Okay. That is definitely a big challenge.
Yes.
That is definitely a big challenge. And I would not say that that we are 100% successful in bringing in a change in our own schools as well. Because we come across all kinds of people generally, who have different aspirations, different perspective about their child's education. And of course, like I said about teachers generally, if I have 100 plus teachers generally working in our schools today, not all of them are on the same plane. So we have to keep motivating them as well.
Hanji.
Coming to government schools, unfortunately, is something generally again very difficult to really. I really don't want to comment too much about it.
It's a socio-economic change, essentially, which has to come over a period
Exactly,
of years. Yeah.
exactly. And there was Adviti, there was something generally what we amongst educators we talk about students. The children who are going to government schools. Do you know that the PPE, that is per pupil expenditure
Yes. Yes.
of a government school is at least 3.5 to 4 times that of a private school, or of an average private school.
Really, sir?
It is.
I wasn't aware of this.
These are statistics which are there.
Oh my God. Okay. This is amazing.
So the kind of money which is being spent,
But it really isn't translating into.
Exactly. this is the unfortunate part.
This is so sad.
So there was a conversation which was happening in the recent past when a thought came up generally that why don't we come up something what we call school vouchers.
Hanji. It's such a good idea.
So the school vouchers should be given to the people who are probably generally, in that, economically weaker section generally, who cannot send their children to maybe, very high-end private schools. But they should have a choice rather than them sending to a government school directly. They should get school vouchers, and then they can select generally if they want to send their children to any school. That way, what will happen is that even the government schools will have to compete.
Right. Coming back to rote learning, sir, that you were saying, na, ki we just don't have to memorize something and then get marks. And I have to ask you this, sir. If everything is so holistic in nature when it comes to education, which will be, I know, in times to come, we can't really fight technology or AI. We just have to integrate it into our everyday lives. Even if it is teaching or students, we just have to integrate it in a very positive way. I'm going to ask you a very direct question, sir. Something like they call it the most elite profession and exam in this country is called the UPSC. I think UPSC is all about rote.
It is.
Anybody can just learn for 1 year, go give the exam. Somebody who's probably as erudite as you are can just get through the civil services like this. You don't need to have holistic learning for that.
Well, probably I really don't know. I wouldn't want to comment on it because I don't have any authority
So
on that.
the most elite exam of the country is road based.
It is to an extent, but then thereafter there is an interview.
But so in the interview, I know. I mean, this is a very
Yes.
controversial
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
But my only thing is, are you seeing the gap, sir?
So the change is coming, I would say. The gap is there, but the change is also coming. That means generally that people, the policy makers,
Yes.
I would say. So one, the other, part of the stakeholders generally in educating children,
Yes.
they're also realizing that things have to change. That means if the new education policy
Of 2020.
of 2020 is implemented properly, and I really wish it does,
And it's a beautiful policy. I've read the whole thing.
then it is going to make a dramatic change to the Indian landscape altogether.
The education landscape.
Absolutely. And education is what makes the society.
Oh, totally, sir. I totally agree with you.
A lot of times people come to me and ask, Adviti, oh, you are doing such, different things, and, maybe you are doing in your schools, you are doing generally. So how will it change the society? How will it change? How will it affect the society? And, in this, probably, I think that was about a few years ago, I was talking to, during my annual day address to the parents, generally, this had come up a few days ago. And I told them the starfish story. And I think generally probably you know that story.
Why don't you narrate it for my audiences? Because I'm sure
Okay.
a lot of people haven't heard that.
I know.
Yes.
So the starfish story is about, on a beach, in the morning generally when there is high tide. So a lot of starfish from the sea, they come on the beach, and when the low tide is there generally, or when the water goes back generally, then they are left stranded on the beach. So the starfish is, a lot of starfish are on the beach. So this is about a story about a couple generally who's walking on the beach, a morning walk, and then they see from very far away generally they see a dancing figure, dancing figure like this generally, moving and doing something like this. So when they approach, then they see generally that there's an old gentleman, picking up a starfish and throwing it back into the sea.
Okay.
So they are curious, and then they ask, "Oh, what are you doing, sir?" He says, "I am putting these starfish back in the sea because if they are left here, they will die." He said, "But then there are thousands and thousands of them here. How are you going to make a difference?" So he picks up another starfish, throws it back, and says, "Made a difference to that one."
Yes. So even if you're making a difference to one, it is a difference. Yes.
So at the end of the day, even if you are able to make a difference to one, you are putting some effort in bringing a difference to the community, to the society.
And change has to start somewhere.
Change has to start from somewhere. And I think that is the way to go about it.
So the NEP also talks about digital fluency. It's a very interesting term. They want that digital fluency essentially should come into schools and even in higher education in the universities. How do you think that is relevant to a student passing out, not just from high school, but also from a university who wants to pick up a job, a 9-to-5 job? Because from what I have read in numerous articles in Economic Times and so many other magazines, this particular generation, which is in the heart of digital fluency, is essentially unable to strike a work-life balance, is unable to deal with their psychological problems, is unable to deal with the fact that, I've had some terrible bosses, sir, but I'm so grateful to them because they made me stronger. I've had bosses who wouldn't let me breathe if I wouldn't complete my work on time. What do you have to say about that? How do you think digital fluency in education in a classroom or even beyond it is really, do you think it's making our children weaker to face harder times ahead? Or do you think it's crippling them like I'd said earlier?
Along with AI, what I term it as AL, that is adaptive learning.
Hanji. Another term, sir, which you have to get copyrighted.
I really don't know, probably. I've just
You
picked it
should
up
get
from
them
somewhere.
patented, sir. Really.
Adaptive learning is very important. Okay. So this leads to what you have just asked. One is generally that we should be able to adapt to the changing times. Again, the stakeholders.
The
teachers, students,
teachers,
parents, everyone. Adaptive learning started with something generally if there is a class of students of 20 children and all those 20 children are at different levels, say for example in math,
Okay.
how does a teacher teach in a particular way so that all children are able to raise their level? So then there was a program which we had piloted some years ago, generally, where all the students were given a particular point to start from, say a student or say students in class 7 or 8. They were given the syllabi of class 3. They had to start from there and then gradually move up. So some students moved quickly, some students took a little time, some were not able to because their fundamentals were not clear. But at a certain stage, they reached a certain stage generally once, because whichever students were not clear with their fundamentals, then the teachers had a task to sit down with them and clear the fundamentals so that they can reach a certain level. That is adapting.
What was this program called, sir?
So this program was something generally which had come to me through someone, and they wanted to pilot it. So we did it with our set of students. It started off well, did not last very long because of whatever the logistic reasons were generally of that particular organization. But what I could take from there was that we can use something similar with all the students in all the subjects. And that comes to your question when you asked me about, how something like technology or something generally, digital, areas can be used with. Teachers have to use something again generally which is going to be used by the students, in their life. Again, relevant education, one.
Adaptive learning, like you said.
Adaptive learning. Even at our preschool level, the preschools that we run, there we start with computational thinking.
Oh, that's amazing, sir.
That's something generally, what is computational thinking is when you are breaking down problems generally into smaller parts. Computational thinking is not about coding or learning hardcore
It's
something
about-
generally. Yes. So if we are able to teach the children about that, then they understand that how they have to collaborate. Something generally when even in a preschool, maybe generally two children building blocks
Hanji.
and making a tower.
Yeah.
So two of them have to collaborate to make it stand or take a certain height.
So basically, you have to work as a team and not just as an individual.
Absolutely.
So this is where we even start teaching them
Yes,
team bonding.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
That is the reason generally in our schools, generally in Maple Bear and Adroit, we do that generally, that we divide the class into smaller groups, give them tasks which have to be done in a team. Very recently, rather, I think 2-3 days ago, we had an art project in our school
Oh, nice.
where it was a collaborative art project. A collaborative art project. They were given a certain theme. 4 students from each house had to make their own particular art project and then combine it together.
So basically, working as a team and not just as an individual.
Because that is what life is all about.
Yes. So this
At the end of the
essentially
day-
translates when they walk out
Absolutely.
into the real world.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are not people generally who are going to work alone. If I am today working generally, I have more than hundreds
Such
of
a
people generally who
beautiful-
are working.
Such a beautiful thought, sir. Really.
They have to learn these skills. These are life essential skills.
These are called life skills. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So these days, universities are incorporating curriculums which are only pointing towards life skills. So they want their students to just learn life skills.
Absolutely.
Where we have something like learning how to learn, critical thinking, communication, having real conversations with people. But why do you think, sir, this particular generation, which is now in 9-to-5 jobs, why do you think they're having a tough time, sir? You're an educator, you are with students right from their formative years. Why do you think this generation is having a tough time?
Two things, what I think, Adviti, are the reason behind it is, one is the conditioning that we have got until now
Which is?
about, safe and secure job. Something generally that through which generally we should be able to earn enough to maybe build our own house, buy a car,
Get
and
married,
what we call
have
get
kids.
married, generally, have kids. So that is something generally what every parent, I mean, I am a middle class person, so every middle class parent aspires for their children. Oh, my bacha should be, safe and secure. That is why everyone is running after government jobs, generally,
The rote learning.
Even if there are, PhDs, applying for a PN's job, unfortunately,
Which is
thousands
very
of them.
sad, sir.
That is very sad.
And Do you think, sir, that the Indian subcontinent, essentially South Asia, I'm not even saying India, do you think countries here or India per se, we are a growing economy and we are now on the world map when it comes to our economy? Do you think we are giving enough to research in our country, so educational research?
That is what is not happening.
Yeah.
That is what is not happening. And the reason behind it is because we have never let our children think. We have just made them well in memory.
So do you think that's why this generation is having problems?
Absolutely. Because they have never critically thought,
of a problem.
they have never analyzed, they have just memorized and written it in exams and reached the stage where they are today.
I have to really share this with you, sir. So when I was in class 8, 9th, we were a group of 4 girls. We were always together. One of us was, it was not me. She was a topper. Today, sir, she has no career. She's just a housewife with a child. I'm not saying women who are housewives with children are not good. That's a full-time job.
Absolutely.
I mean, you really have to have something in you to be able to do that. But I don't know if I should say this, but I will. I feel education is a waste when it comes to this. Don't you think so, sir?
I don't think it's a waste.
I mean, I feel that she was a topper, sir. She was topping continuously. And her grades would never be less than 99, 98. She later on also finished her MBA and whatever. So I just feel that I personally feel very sad when I see, and I'm not even talking of this generation, I'm talking about my generation, where we are not really applying our education.
So I think the other day when we were sitting and we were talking about, our becoming a fabric of people who are around us, who touch our lives.
We become like the people we are around.
Yes.
Yes.
I think the person you're talking about, she
Just
was a good student in school and college, I'm sure. But then I think probably she is meant to give it out to the children generally, that,
To her kids.
to her kids,
Yeah.
and maybe people around her, to her family. That is also equally important. Being educated doesn't always mean generally that you have to pick up a job or a profession.
How nice is that, sir? Yes.
It is important to be able to appreciate things around you, to be able to be mindful. The biggest problem that probably our country has, lack of civic sense.
Oh my God, sir, don't even. I think this podcast will just
So
go to
at
civic
times,
sense.
believe me, Adviti, and
Do you think civic sense should be a subject, sir?
my God, I really feel generally, I really wish generally that. And I talk a lot generally whenever I get a chance to, speak in the assembly generally, with the students. A lot of times I talk about mindfulness and civic sense.
Civic sense.
So why does it happen generally, that we as a community do not have that? Why do we, when we go out of our country, probably, then we suddenly are more conscious about things? Why am I driving on one side and I can see another car or a scooter coming from that same side generally on this side of the divider?
Now, sir, this that we've been talking about for the past 5 minutes now. We're talking about civic sense. We're talking about mindfulness. We're talking about how really education is shaping the psyche of our young children who are going to be the future of this country and of the world tomorrow. Do you think AI can ever replace this, sir? I don't think so. Do you think so? I don't know.
I don't think so. But like I said a little while ago, AI is going to replace the people who are not going to learn how to use AI.
And that makes it dangerous
Dangerous
or harmful?
in a positive way, let me just call it like that.
How, sir?
Because until and unless, it's about picking up weights when you go to a gym. You start with 5 kgs, then you go to 7, then you go to 10. Until and unless you strain yourself, or until and unless you challenge yourself to pick up that 10 or 15 or 20, your muscles will not really, will not support you. I think this is going to be something what is coming as a challenge to the humanity. This new thing is coming up. Gear up. Brace yourself.
Tesla has introduced robots, sir. That will basically help you in your home work. Basically doing all your home chores with you. I don't know, sir. I somehow find it very difficult to even imagine a world. Maybe I come from the generation where I want to pick up a book. I like tangible things. I want to go out for a hike. I want to go out for cycling. I have done that in my childhood and I want to continue doing that. I find it very hard to understand that how can a being, because obviously it's not a human, how can a being of that nature really walk into my house and do everything for me? I think that, and if that's going to happen in future generations, don't you think so? Humanity as a whole will be crippled.
Why? Why do you think so? I think generally what is going to happen that, me as an entrepreneur, if you ask me generally, I am always in that search of the 25th hour,
Oh, how interesting is that?
which never comes. You know,
You're always
having
asking
that,
for an hour extra.
yeah, which will never come.
So you think that'll come, something like this will come?
Exactly.
Okay.
We have to make ourselves efficient. We have to stop doing jobs which can be done, which are repetitive or which are not required to be done by us. It's fine. Who's stopping you to clean up a table generally, even if your robot can't do it? It's fine.
So
Who's stopping you from, probably like what I think Musk said, generally growing your own vegetables, even when you can go and buy it in the market.
Yes.
Do it
He said
if you
that.
want to.
Yes.
But if it saves you time, and if it gives you time to go for a hike or a trek generally, on a Monday morning,
Why not?
why not?
So this is something like the Scandinavian countries, sir. So Norway, Sweden, and Finland, it's in their constitutions now. It's a law passed there that people only work Monday to Thursday.
Exactly. I really wish something like this happens.
People only work Monday to Thursday in Scandinavia. sir.
Yeah.
And Friday, Saturday, Sundays are for them.
And I think probably they are talking about 3 days a week also now. In some
Last I knew
countries.
it was 4 days a week. And what I'm really coming to is that, sir, that's why Finland has been voted as the happiest country in the world
Yeah,
for almost 7 years in a row now.
Correct.
They're the happiest country in the world. But then, of course, I have conversations with my friends, who are well-read, and they tell me, oh, that's because, they have developed economies and they really don't have to, unke paas aur kuch karne ko nahi. So I said, but don't you believe, sir, that part of education and part of, I have firmly believed this for a while now, that education is not just confined to a classroom.
Correct.
For a student, it is starts from right time the student wakes up in the morning, gets ready, goes to school, meets his teacher or her teacher over there, studies, comes back, rests for a while, eats lunch, probably then, and is interacting with friends, doing homework. And like you said, so that thing that you started in your school where the flip,
Flip class.
flip class, which was very interesting. I don't you feel, sir, that something is missing somewhere now? What do you think is something that we can really bring back from the era that you and I were going to school? Do you think things were really bad that time when we were students?
Okay. So you have actually, hit a nerve there. Me being a teacher, core at heart. The respect towards teacher is something that is missing, unfortunately.
We don't respect our teachers.
This generation does not.
Really, sir?
That is what has happened generally, And the reason probably is, again, the parents,
The stakeholders.
the
yeah.
stakeholders. Parents today do not hesitate to even, call up immediately the phone, the administrator or the coordinator to, oh, मेरे बच्चे को आज आपने हाथ कैसे लगाए, मेरे बच्चे की तरफ देखा भी कैसे ऐसे, for that matter. And this is being done in front of the child.
So obviously, and that
So
mind
how is the
yes.
child going to respect the teacher when that respect is not being done by the parent? We have actually come to a stage where we feel that we can buy everything. We have become too materialistic a society. In countries like what you're talking about, Finland or other, I would say better countries, teachers are respected, they are paid well. Unfortunately, teachers in Dehradun, or sorry, for that matter, in India, they are not paid so well.
So, sir, talking about teaching and teachers, and I remember you and I were having this conversation. Do you think teaching is all about really how much money you're being compensated with?
I don't think so, Adviti. It's not always about money. If you see a teacher at the core, there are some people who are born teachers, who have not thought that, okay, this is my last option in a career and that is why I'm teaching. And more than money, that satisfaction has to be there. So equally important thing from our perspective as a school is to be able to give that value and respect to the teacher, to that career growth and to that personal growth that the teacher will get. So that is my responsibility as the chairman of the school, that I create a very good work environment for my staff. There should not be anything generally, which will in a way add on to her baggage of problems, which inevitably everyone has for that matter. And each day, in the same way as probably a student wants to get a good experience, a teacher also should be able to get good experiences.
So when we say value to teachers, and you say respect, I remember once you were sharing with me about this anecdote where the parent was calling up and complaining about a teacher and really not speaking in a very respectful fashion. What sort of a effect or impact do you think it has on the mind of the student?
It does. Unfortunately, it does. And that is where, all the stakeholders again come into the picture, where we have to give respect. What, again, the school has to do is to train the teachers. Very important. Training is very, very important when we are talking about students getting relevant education. Something that in case a teacher is not upgrading himself or herself and not upskilling, that means the teacher is coming with that preconceived notion, oh, I know this way of teaching and I'm going to teach it in this way.
मुझे ये आता है, मैं इसी तरीके से पढ़ाऊंगी.
But here we are talking of contemporary education. Contemporary education can only be imparted if the teacher on the ground is able to connect with the children. Something what we have, like you saw, they have KYC in a bank.
Oh yes.
So we have KYS, know your student.
Well, how interesting is that, sir?
So the first staff meeting every year that I take, generally that's the opening staff meeting. At times there are some new
You take that
teachers.
just once a year?
I always. No, I take it a lot of times. But first one always has this KYS.
Very interesting.
Know your students. So students who are rolling over from one class to another, or new students coming in. A new teacher is there, the class teacher or subject teachers are there. Talk to the other teachers about those children.
Or the previous class teachers.
Yes.
Oh, very interesting.
Very important. When that happens, they have a certain point from where to start with those children.
Right.
But they have to be trained
For that.
to do that. And that is what is happening. That is what we're trying to do. We try that the teachers, they get new kinds of education. They get, inputs from us, from their team members. There are coordinators who are there. There are subject HODs who are there generally, who handhold the new teachers. That is what we are trying to do.
I have to ask you this. So what is the one thing that you think should come back from the era that when we were in schools into this era, into this generation?
Respect.
For teachers.
Absolutely.
You think that's...
Unfortunately, it is missing now. Unfortunately, on the part of the stakeholders as parents, they do not respect teachers anymore. I mean, I would not say all of them
all
don't.
of them, but some of them.
Some of them don't. That is what needs to change. They feel generally because they are paying some fee, that is why they can demand, certain unreasonable things also generally, or kind of this is the way because the school is ready to listen to them.
So basically we have money and we can buy anything, even if it is respect. Which is so sad.
Something that needs to change.
So sad.
Absolutely.
How do you think, so we can really change that in some way?
Educate. A school has a responsibility not only to educate children but also parents.
The parents. And train the teachers.
Train the teachers. Very important. Like I said, learn to keep learning.
My last two questions for you, sir.
Sure.
First, how important do you think is reading in today's generation? I think नहीं पढ़ते सर बच्चे अब, मैंने देखा है. किताब नहीं सर, वो ना Kindle या ऑनलाइन या इंस्टाग्राम पे ना बुक्स के आजकल लोगों ने वैसे भी पेजेस बनाए. They have pages where they're putting up, they highlight a certain nice quote from a book and then they put it, and that has 1 million views.
Correct.
But I still feel that aroma of pages from a fresh book.
Oh yes, love it. Love it.
When you can actually hold a book in your
Yes.
hand. How important do you think
It is very important. I have been a voracious reader in the past. Now also I try to read off and on. But I had that bad habit. एक बार किताब उठा लिया तो फिर छोड़ना नहीं
छोड़ना
है.
नहीं है.
That was something that actually kind of troubled me and people around me. Uh, Very important, because if you're reading, then you are actually investing yourself. You're imagining the characters, the situations,
I like movies.
like movies.
Books that are adapted into
Exactly.
movies.
Then your imagination,
Oh, that's
your
a
imagination is going all out, and that is why I always encourage. Rather, my daughter is a published author in
Oh,
Shah.
lovely.
Yes.
Lovely.
So I was her, the first editor, the critique, and I always say that the creativity, that she has, in a way, when I used to say, oh, this is not something which is coming out to be very right, something, and then she used to sulk for 2 weeks and not write at all.
Oh my God.
So why I'm telling you both the perspectives of being an author as well as a writer,
Reader.
as a reader,
Hanji.
is generally that how you are able to be creative, how you are able to imagine.
And
how
that you think is very important in the holistic development of a child.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That is important.
Yes. I think reading is any one book, sir, that has left an indelible mark on you.
I have read so many, but then one particular generally which came at a particular phase in my life was The Secret.
Rhonda Byrne.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think generally, the books come to you.
Did
Generally,
it work for you, sir?
Oh, it did. Generally, it did.
The concepts in it did.
I connected with the book. I connected, and something generally, which was there. Generally, it kind of related to the things around me, what was happening at that phase of my life.
Manifestation, essentially.
Manifestation was there. So I felt generally that book found me.
Books find us.
And they do.
Entirely. I believe this. I believe people say, no, I bought that book. I said, no, the book has found you.
Yeah.
Books find us. And somehow, the right book has the absolute right way of finding us at the right time.
At the right
when we
time.
need that book the most. Books find us.
That's true.
I can have another podcast with you, sir, on this.
Thank
on
you so
just on
much.
reading
Yeah.
and just on books.
All right. Yes.
So my last question. What do you think? I really want, sir, you are such a prolific educator. You have such a lot of experience running your own schools, opening a new one now. What is that one message in the VUCA world, where are we living in an uncertain world? Changing times, AI, ML, technology. Everything is becoming a part of our everyday lives. What is the one message you want to give to all the three stakeholders when it comes to education? Teachers, parents, students.
So I'll start from my students.
So,
I always tell them, take chances. Don't give up. Participate in every trial, give every audition. Be a part of everything that is happening in school, even if you are not the main lead or the central lead, doesn't really matter. Just be a part of the whole thing. They have wings, we just have to let them fly. That is something which is very important. For parents, let the children take those chances. Very important. For teachers, teach yourself to be able to let these children take those chances. Because in this VUCA world, unless we take risks, unless we take chances, we will not be able to thrive. We will be left behind.
you'll just be surviving.
We have to. It has to be more than survival. Survive, everyone is surviving. Everyone will survive.
That's how you thrive.
But you want to thrive is more important.
And my previous podcast was about that. So, so thank you so much. You have been so kind. And there is so much that I have learned personally in this podcast. Of course, I learned from you, and otherwise, you're such an inspiration. But thank you so much, sir, for doing this for me. And I think, like I said, people like you, sir, have to be the face of education in this country. People who think so deeply for each student that they're taking in their school. People who believe that reading is necessary. People who believe that education is not just in four walls of a classroom, within the four walls of a classroom. It's beyond that. Where you are also taking personal interest, not just in, really shaping a child's future, but also shaping the mindset of the parents and training your teachers to be able to deal with that. I think that's just so amazing. So personally, I don't think any school in Dehradun is actually doing that.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so
Aditi.
much, sir.
Yes, it's been a pleasure and it's been very educative for me as well. Believe me.
No, sir. I mean, I'm not even half as intellectual as you are. I always say that. But thank you so much for doing this for me, sir, with me. And I'm sure this is going to be such a treat for our listeners and our audience.
I really hope so. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, sir.
Thank you so much.